Good morning. It is June 24th, 2014. This is Jason Horak reporting on the Dodge Daytona electric vehicle. What we're doing today is I've actually got some appointments, one up in Preble and one down in Marathon. So that's basically the next exit north on the highway and the next exit, or the next town south on the highway. And so going to be some fairly decent highway traveling today, and I'm going to do some monitoring of what's going on with the batteries after the bottom balance and splicing in that new cell, monitoring that the weak cell and all that good stuff. So anyway, what we're going to do is show you how I've got things wired up for this test run today. I normally don't have many wires sticking out of my car in various angles and stuff. Just going for the simplistic approach. But for today, for this particular test, I really wanted to see what was happening with that weak cell. Cell number 3 in the front pack we know is weak, so I figured I'd get it all wired up with the Power Lab to specifically monitor the voltage on that cell. So anyway, I'm just kind of doing a walk around here, my shiny red car, with all the traffic going by as it is. So yeah, so there we go. Everything's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a look inside to see how we've got the under the hood, how things are set up. And so let's go ahead and pop this guy. It's a little bit windy today, so I'm hoping it's not picking up too much of that wind noise on the camera. I'll try to speak up anyway. But so basically everything's the same under the hood as normal. But I wanted to point out that this particular battery, so this is cell number 3, from the positive lead on this side and the negative lead down here, I've just got these little alligator clips on the straps that happen to be in between that cell and the next one. So you probably can't make it out, but this one does have a red wire underneath, and this one has the black. But anyway, so that just goes through some small gauge wire that goes along here, up and through, and actually in between the seam and the door. So it goes in right there. And due to the rubber in the door, it's not crimping those too badly. And again, they're protected by the wire loom. So anyway, as you can see, I've got the Power Lab wired up there, and so that's the leads coming in. The orange block there is the two, I believe, 60 amp DC breakers to protect the Power Lab, and then we're just going into the banana jacks there at the bottom. So the power source for the Power Lab at this point, which is this blue wire, this wire right here, is just goes into a spool of regular kind of stuff and into the cigarette lighter. So that is the Power Lab power. And then on this side we have the USB cable that's just plugged in to its little adapter board and into the laptop via USB. So what that's going to allow me to do is monitor that particular cell's voltage as I'm driving today, under various conditions, accelerating and, as the pack gets depleted and all that kind of good stuff. So that's why I'm doing this. Personally, I think the cell is fine, despite, as you saw in the previous video, the massive overcharging. At least on the terminal voltage was quite high. So anyway, so here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on inside the car as far as the configuration and so forth. Okay. So I've got the car on at this point, and we're at 171, 136 on the mileage, and I've reset the trip meter. As long as I don't ever turn the car off, the trip meter will at least retain the value. It resets if you turn off the power. That's just an issue with this dashboard from 1987. Anyway, so again, Power Lab, all set up. Laptop. Okay, and I'm not sure with the glare how well this is going to work out. Viewing the laptop screen, probably not too well. That's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're outside and so forth. But what we're going to do is we've got the Soliton EV Display and Data Logger program running here, and currently it is disconnected from the Soliton. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the Soliton, and then we'll see it. So this is broadcasting wirelessly. Just as a refresher, I have a Linksys wireless router right there that's plugged in to a cigarette lighter type adapter to give it power, and so that is hooked up to the Soliton directly, and then it broadcasts a wireless signal that I can pick up on a laptop or a cell phone. And so I've got, let's see if I can do this without too much glare. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work, because pretty much everywhere I look, all I see is the camera and me. But anyway, this is my Android version. Again, the picture is not coming out very clearly. I do intend to buy a tablet to run this, just so that, mainly so the camera can make it out more clearly. But this is my little Android version of the Soliton EV Display and Data Logger program. So that runs on Windows, that which runs on Android. And so this is all the same data, and it's actually broadcasting twice, or at the same time, because of the nature of how the Soliton sends out its data. It's a broadcast signal that you can pick up by multiple devices at the same time. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that is nice about the phone or a tablet is that this has a GPS built into it. So I've hooked it up to the GPS speedometer, latitude and longitude, and all that good stuff, so that the log file that's created on the phone or on a tablet is going to actually include the speed information and the actual latitude, longitude positioning for, like mapping it out on a map after the fact. Unfortunately, there's no real good way to get altitude data on the phone. It does have an altimeter type of a thing that's calculated with the GPS, but that's not very accurate, and so consequently there's a lot of noise and it'll bounce all over the place, and so it's not exactly ideal. So anyway, so this will be logging at the same time. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start logging. Actually, what I'm going to do is turn off the Soliton, and we're going to go start our data logging here, and we're going to start data logging on here as well, more or less synchronizing our plan, and then we'll turn on the Soliton, which of course causes it to immediately display and start at 0, all that good stuff. Again, on both. Wish you could make this out on the phone, but yeah, so there we go. Here's the Soliton settings. Should be hopefully readable. These are just the ones that I normally go through when I'm driving around. I call this performance mode. So max pack amperage is set to 750, and the same with the motor amperage. So that's kind of the main one that gives you your acceleration and so forth. As well as, of course, not hitting your minimums on the pack voltage. So the pack voltage that I'm showing on the data logger program is 202 at this point, which is reasonably close. According to the JLD 404, we're at 201.1, and wow, the glare is not allowing that to come out, but that's all right. 201.1, and then 202 over on here. So that's kind of our starting point for the pack. You know, it's slightly, I just took it off the charger, so it hasn't quite settled yet. That's why it's a little above 200. But anyway, okay. So the other thing that I wanted to do is we're going to launch the Power Lab program. And this one, I'm just doing a monitor with this. So I'm not doing a charge or discharge. So the choice here is monitor. And it's monitoring our wonderful cell number 3. Verifying the chemistry of A123, which of course it's not. And what we're going to say, there we go. And we're going to call this cell number 3. How about we'll do 3 and test drive. Okay, so our starting cell voltage on this cell is 3.356 volts. So again, that's where it settled to after, you know, being severely overcharged or whatever, the pack voltage from the last video. And that's just kind of where it hangs out after it's, you know, basically at a fully charged pack. That's kind of where we're at, 3.356, and that is our starting point for today's test. Okay, and so again, we're graphing. Not very exciting at this point. Pretty much a flat line since we're just sitting here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start our little journey. I'm already running kind of late on my appointment because, hey, you know, might as well document the process here as much as possible, just to for posterity and YouTube viewers everywhere. Okay, so everything's logging, and we are good to go. So I got it set up so I can close the laptop lid without stopping logging. I can turn off my phone, and so forth. So anyway, we're off and running, off to Preble. This is one of my clients, and I gotta go help out them with their computer problems today. So we're cruising along on the highway here. So according to the GPS speedometer, it says I'm going about 82. My regular speedometer says it's about 81. GPS says 83 now. So it's reasonably accurate, but not exactly perfect. You know, one of those close enough for government work kind of situations. So anyway, we're happily logging away and stuff's doing. Alright, so we're going to try to stabilize here at 75 if I can get there on our super level roads in central New York. Alright, so 75. Alright, so my speedometer says, come on, hold it at 75. Can't quite get there. Okay. So 76-ish. So we are pulling, according to the happy little phone app here. Can't tell. Pack amperage, 144. Which is pretty decent, considering we're cruising along at 75, 78 miles an hour on the highway. Yeah, it's pretty decent. So this is a relatively flat section of the road, 161. And then the motor amperage, we're showing about 300, 250 to 300, give or take. Kind of creeping up here on the speed. Traffic's a little bit insane. I got people behind me and stuff. So anyway, we'll try to maintain. So 80 miles an hour, pack amperage of 160 to 175, somewhere in that range. Let me see what we got on the JLD. So the JLD is showing, you know, about the same, 175, give or take, 150. So, you know, again, it all depends on the road, and so it's really hard to get a fixed number, because it does fluctuate quite a bit. But I am data logging the crap out of this, so hopefully I'll be able to plot some graphs and so forth in Excel, and just kind of show, you know, at this speed, at these GPS coordinates, we were doing this much amp draw and all that good stuff. So yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. A little bit tricky with the phone and the camera and the whole driving thing, but so far so good. So I'll catch up with you at our next destination when we get to Preble, and we'll kind of do a mileage check and you know, see where the pack is at and check some statistics and all that fun stuff. So I'll be right back. I'm not sure, you may remember from my winter time video, I actually was driving up to this same client, and it was taking this same, like, you know, back roads kind of thing in the winter. So this is just what that same area looks like in June. Just, you know, kind of pretty territory, very green and lush this time of year, and everyone loving their you know, mowing the lawns and so forth. But yeah, so anyway, apparently fresh strawberries for sale at the farms nearby. But lots of corn growing. They have a saying, something like corn that's knee-high by the 4th of July. It's looking about that already, and it's the 24th of June, so we're getting close. So they must be pretty much right on. Yeah, vast fields of corn. Cow country up here. So anyway, we're almost there. I will be right back. Alrighty then, so here we are at our first stop of the day. Our trip meter says 13.7 miles, and we've used 25.8 amp hours according to the JLD 404. And according to the Soliton EV display and data logger, we've used 23.9 amp hours were sent to the through the Soliton to the motor. So the discrepancy there is, of course, anything else the DC to DC converter is doing and so forth. Yeah, also math errors, I'm sure. Anyway, so that's where we're at this point. So we're showing a pack voltage of 199 at this point, and there we go. So, also the motor temp, which I'm not sure how accurate that is. The Soliton temperature is 91 degrees Fahrenheit. After the highway run and so forth, and the motor temp is showing at 98.9 and rising. As it sits here and doesn't spin, the motor will dissipate a lot of the heat that has built up in the commutator, and so you'll start to see it on the case temperature, which is what's happening now. You can see the motor temp is just cranking on up. There's 100 degrees Fahrenheit and rising rapidly. Anyway, yeah, so everything's the same here on this one, except looks like we have a bug in my program on the Android. The pack amp hours is not calculating correctly, or maybe it wasn't logging the whole time. I'm not sure. I'm still working out the bugs with this. This is why this is not available on the website yet. Yeah, it's not calculating the motor temp either. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to go take care of my client and help them out, and then we'll be back, and I'm going to leave everything running, the logging and the car on and all that fun stuff, because I want to make sure, or I want to track, you know, how the battery settles and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, here you can see where we started at 3.1 whatever it was, 3.35, and our current is 3.34 at this particular point, so it hasn't dropped at all overall, and just, you know, it did hit the rock bottom at 2.934 in about 7.5 minutes into our trip. So the time of the trip isn't going to really matter because, again, I'm leaving everything on. Yeah, so logging away like crazy, and here we go. So I'm going to go take care of my client, and I will be back in a bit. Alrighty then. So it's been about 15 minutes, or sorry, 45 minutes rather. So the battery has settled here at 3.34 to 3.35. Again, you can see amidst the glare, that's a fairly flat curve. And since we haven't been pulling anything off of it, the motor has actually started to come down in temp. It had gone up above 100, and now it's 97.5. And the Soliton is down to 77 degrees, which is close to ambient here today. So all that's looking pretty good. The pack has bounced back up to 200 volts, and again, just from resting. And we're ready to go for the next adventure. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to head on out, and we'll be going to Marathon, which is a fairly good trip. I don't know exactly how far from here, but I guess we'll find out. So we're at 13.7 as we start out, and I'll be back in a bit. Case in point, in cow country, central New York, I'm stuck behind a tractor pulling a wagon with some hay. How exciting is that? But perhaps he's going to this field up here where all these other hay bales are. I'm not really sure, but anyway, fun stuff in any case. So again, we're cruising at on this relatively flat bit of road, and so we're doing about 74, trying to get it to 75 without going too much faster. Alright, there we go, 75, and we're pulling 150 amp hours, give or take, or sorry, 150 amps rather, to maintain 75 miles an hour on the highway. You know, this is not too bad. Go skying past the police car here that's looking for speed traps. Instinctively slow down. Trying to get back up to 75. So now we're going up kind of a little bit of a grade here. And yeah, so again, cruise along very smoothly. Now I've noticed that the bearings, these are the ceramic bearings that are in this particular net gain Warp 9 motor, kind of make a little bit of a different sound. And I'll go over that again a little bit later when we're in the garage where it's quiet. Yeah, so they seem to be working just fine. And again, the car just motors right along. There's nothing really fancy or exciting going on, but just figured I'd give you an update. So we got ourselves a little bit of rain. Being in central New York, this happens quite often. So this is kind of a good example of the EV in all-weather conditions, particularly with the headlights on, the wipers going, the froster fan going, and the power steering pump. You'll notice that we're getting a check gauge light on. Let's see if I can find a good spot to park here. We're getting a check gauge light on the dashboard, and what that's telling us is that it's complaining about the 12-volt power dropping pretty low. It's not enough to shut the dashboard off, but it's enough to have it complain a bit. So that's just kind of one of those things. And so when I put my foot on the brake, you'll see the check gauge light comes on again, just from the brake lights drawing so much power. So we're dealing with a 800 watt DC to DC converter that's running all the 12 volt systems in the car, which, you know, at the moment is the, you know, wipers, the headlights, the tail lights, the brake lights because I have my foot on the brake, and the power steering pump with not straining currently, so just kind of sitting there, and the fan blower on medium. So all those loads, in addition to the router, you know, which is of course drawing a little bit of power, and the power lab, which is drawing a little bit of power as well. So actually, we can use the power lab to find out what the source voltage is. Alright, so yeah, supply is showing right there at 12 volts, and so if I move the power steering pump, or move the wheel rather, to make the power steering pump strain, you know, we're getting down to, you know, 11.0, there's a 10.9, you know, so it's definitely struggling to keep up. It would be better if I had some more 12 volt power, but really not sure how to make that happen. I've heard that there's a 1000 watt DC-DC converter that Jack has, but I think that has fans in it, and so that's kind of not necessarily an improvement over what's going on here. So anyway, we'll go ahead and turn off the power steering pump. That doesn't need to be running. Turn off the fan blower. That also doesn't need to be running. We are going to leave the car on, just like we did at the previous appointment. And so we are at 41.6 miles according to the trip meter, as accurate as that is. According to the JLD 404, we've used 84.6 amp hours, and the pack is at 196.4. Our little battery here is at 3.31 volts currently, and the Soliton EV display and data logger shows 197 volts, and this says that we used 77.6 amp hours, and whereas the JLD 404 again was 84.6. So there's definitely a growing discrepancy between the two, but again, that makes sense with all the 12 volt systems drawing power. That has nothing to do with what the controller is sending to the motor. Anyway, the motor temperature, as I was cruising down the highway, I did notice that you know, I was doing 75 miles an hour or so, and the RPMs, I was in 5th gear, the RPMs were hovering right around 3,000, and I noticed on this that it was showing the motor temperature was about 88 degrees, which is, you know, definitely, you know, getting cooled sufficiently. Now that it's just sitting here, we're showing 154 and rising, 154.4. You know, and again, this is based on the mathematical calculation based on that input 1 voltage going up, that is sort of calibrated at a high and a low point, just to kind of guesstimate at what the motor temp is. So the motor temp is probably not 155 degrees, but it may be close. It may be more, maybe less. I'm really not sure. But regardless, things are going pretty well here. My battery power on the laptop is kind of getting low, and unfortunately my little adapter there that runs on 12 volt power is not able to make the 90 watts necessary to charge the laptop up. So my laptop will probably die, maybe while I'm here at this appointment, I'm not sure. But either way, I'll leave it logging for as long as it can. And as you can see, this battery is you know, leveling out again just like it normally does when you come to a stop. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and take care of this appointment, and I will be back in a bit. The best laid plans of mice and men. So, as it turned out, while I was at my appointment, my laptop battery expired, and so therefore all of my login data ended. so here I am on the way home with no way to log any additional information. Yeah, you know. Also, my phone battery has just about dead as well. So that one is still able to log a little bit, but it could die at any second. So, all these battery-powered devices, I tell you. Anyway, so this is also the case in central New York. It is no longer no longer raining, and I'm taking the alternate route back home from the client. So this is, instead of being up on the highway, this is kind of a nice drive in the countryside. So it's about the same distance, give or take. This way it might be a little bit longer than just taking the highway straight through. But, I mean, look at this scenery. This is gorgeous. So it's a lot of fun. Plus I get to do cool things like go-kart down this big hill. Doing 80 miles an hour with no power. A lot of fun. Anyway, I'm gonna keep on trucking here, and we'll see what the final tally is when I get back to town as far as miles traveled and amp hours consumed, at least according to the JLD 404, which doesn't rely on laptop batteries to keep track of things, or cell phone batteries, as the case may be. But yeah. Anyway, just having fun and a nice little drive through the country. I also get to roll the windows down when I'm not filming because it's kind of hot today, and it's very loud, but much more comfortable. So, anyway, I'll catch up with you all in a bit. Alrighty then, so I'm at my final client appointment for the day, I hope, assuming nothing else goes wrong. So just checking out the current status of things. So we've gone 57.5 miles, and we're at 112.9 amp hours consumed. Pack voltage is holding at 194.6. Again, I know it doesn't come out of the camera very well, but those are the numbers. And again, the laptop is out of juice, so that's not really helping much. We're at 3.29 volts, according to the Power Lab. And yeah, so and my little application is still running on the phone, but you know, it just, again, it's showing 196 volts for the pack, which is what the Soliton is reporting, and various other not so important factors. Motor temperature seems to be down, which makes sense because we were just driving and it was happily spinning and cooling itself, but now we're getting to the point where you know, it's just sitting here and it's in the sun and so forth, which it will warm up. Controller temperature is at 100 degrees currently, which again is not surprising because most of my driving just recently was in town, so a lot of accelerations and not really going along the highway, keeping the controller nice and cool. So most likely the fans are actually on the controller. So I do have to shut off the car now, since I'm kind of in town and I can't just leave it on without fear of it walking away. But so our mileage on the odometer is 171, 194. And the reason why I make a specific note of this is that often when I turn off the dashboard, the mileage will change slightly. I think it's either like a rounding error kind of thing or whatever causes it to lose the trip information, also causes it to be slightly inaccurate as far as that goes. So anyway, so 57.5 thus far and 171, 194. So I will resume this as soon as I get done with this appointment, and we'll go from there. Alrighty then, so it has been a couple days since my last video where I had done some client appointments and so forth. Since then, I've continued to drive the car. Been going back and forth to work, running errands, buying groceries, taking my mom out for dinner and that kind of thing. And so basically I've just been doing my normal routine with the car like I would any other day, with one notable exception. I have specifically not recharged the car. I've been trying to do this range test experiment, but unfortunately, life gets in the way and there's things to do, and dedicating the time to just go out and drive for 100 miles for the sake of experimentation is sometimes kind of difficult to pull off. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at, and so I just kind of wanted to go over the current status of the car after again driving for a bunch of time, and most of the time I've been hopping on the highway to go to the next exit, driving around in town, so lots of accelerations, starts and stops, as well as sitting at stoplights and all that fun stuff. So it's kind of been just a mix of normal everyday driving. So I just wanted to show you where we're at right now. So as the JLD 404 is showing 182.8 or 0.9, so roughly 183 at this point, which divided by 60 cells works out to, I believe, 3.05 volts per cell. So we're getting down to the end, but this is just at rest. And according to the amp hour meter, we've expended 165.0 amp hours at this point, and we've used, or it's been a total of 51 hours and 35 minutes since I reset the JLD at the beginning of this video. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. Our cell number 3 is still hooked up to the power lab, and we're showing 3.08 volts on that cell. Again, not under load, just sitting here chilling. And so that's about where the rest of them are, again with a pack average of 3.05. And so the other thing of note is the mileage. So we're at 171,244. And I went back and reviewed the video from when I first started this, and I was at 171,136, I believe. And so doing the quick math, that means that we've done about 108 miles since the start of this video. So 108 miles in 165 amp hours consumed. And there you go. So again, and that wasn't entirely highway driving. It was a mix of highway and city, but again, just more of my daily driving habits, basically. And so I'll have to, and we're not done yet. The car's still going. We still have power, and so as you may recall, this motor was the one that I had purchased originally back in 2010 and installed into my first electric car, the 1988 Dodge Daytona. That was kind of a beater, a little bit of a rust bucket, and I had my lead acid batteries and all that good stuff. Well, that motor was just moved and transferred into this car in 2011, in July or August, I can't remember, of 2011, and I drove it for a year. And then that's the motor that blew up at AvCon 2012 and threw out that chunk of metal out of its armature. So anyway, Jack Rickard had it rebuilt, and he had it put these special ceramic bearings in it that make a somewhat different sound when the motor spins, but it spins much more freely than the other motor that I had replaced. So I just kind of wanted to let you listen to the sound that it makes, kind of for posterity, if nothing else. So what we're going to do is a quick little test with utilizing my phone and the Soliton EV display and data logger, which of course doesn't really come out very well on the camera, but will also have the dashboard in the shot, so you can kind of see what the RPMs are doing on that as well. Okay, so I'm pushing in the clutch, so we're just hearing the planes flying overhead. We're just hearing the motor spinning, and of course there's wind noise and stuff too, but you should be able to get the idea. Alright, so here we go. We're just going to ramp it up, and I'm going to try to hold it as best I can at a consistent RPM. There we go. So we're at 3,400. And so you can hear it's kind of a purring sound. It's pretty smooth. And then I'm going to take it to, so 3,000, right now it's at 3,300, give or take. I'm going to let off on the pedal, and we'll see how long it takes for it to stop. There's off the pedal. And so, as you can tell, it's taking a while for it to slow down, which is an indication that those bearings are working quite well. The motor is, freewheeling for a good long time without a lot of mechanical drag, with the clutch pushed in. And it's still going. 500, 400, 300, 200, and 0. There we go. So that's with the clutch pushed in, so we've got no mechanical drag, or minimal mechanical drag from the transmission. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same test. Hopefully the wind noise won't drown it out too bad. With the clutch out, so that the transmission in neutral is going to be kind of creating some extra drag. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. And you'll notice it's going to be a lot louder too. Alright, holding it at the same RPMs as it was before, about 3,400. Okay, and now we're going to let out. See how long it takes to come to a stop. So 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, and stop. So it is a lot quicker that it comes to a stop, but again, it's still spinning reasonably freely, a lot better than that old other motor that was clearly having some balance issues and drag going on in the bearings and so forth. So anyway, that is where we are at today with the whole range testing and so forth, and we're doing pretty good. So just wanted to give you that, and so now I'm going to go ahead and do an acceleration. Second gear, just to kind of give an idea of what it's doing as far as the sag that we're getting with the batteries this far depleted. So again, the little cell number 3 is at 308 volts right now, and we're at 182.5 on the JLD. So let's just go ahead and pedal to the metal here. Oh, not really, just a little bit of acceleration. So we dropped down to about a 168, give or take, on the JLD 404. And let's go ahead and find another little road to go do some more acceleration on. So as you can see, it's got plenty of pep. Definitely no issue there as far as lack of power. And let's go over one more street. street just to get kind of a clear without so many people parked here. Alright. So we'll go from a dead stop. And hey, what the heck? Let's actually log this on the Soliton EVD display and data logger for just the fun of it. Haven't done many of these like quick acceleration trials. Alright, so here we go. So we're at 3.0 volts, 3.1 now, 3.01 rather, on that cell number 3, and it's settled to 177.5, and it is slowly creeping up, but you know, so we're definitely at the end of our pack here, but let's go ahead. Alright, so that dropped us down to about 135 on the JLD, and you know, we're down a bit on the other as well. So I mean, the pack is definitely at the end of its useful span of energy, but you'll notice that we still have tons of power. The car is accelerating very well. You know, again, this is like a 3,500 pound car with 200 and something Jason in it. So yeah, so there we go. And the total here, so now we're at 167.1 as far as amp hours consumed, and the pack is, you know, recovering from the 175.6 and rising. And again, the glare is always present. Yeah, so I'm going to stop the logger and close out of that. So anyway, I think that's a good test for right now. I will be doing another range test that's a little more scientific. I'm going to try to get a continuous run from fully charged to this point of fully empty, while logging the entire time with both the laptop and the PowerLab software. So anyway, for right now, I'm going to recharge my car so that I've got plenty of power when I go out and do my various errands and things. Yeah, so take care and have a wonderful day. So one thing that just occurred to me as I was finishing up this video was that even though I wasn't very scientific with my range test and the discharge, I can be relatively scientific with the recharge. Since the car is in the garage, I can be charging the car with the laptop plugged in, and therefore we can get a very relatively accurate graphs and so forth for the charge process. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the Soliton, and we're going to actually start logging here and then turn on the Soliton. So we'll start logging there, which doesn't actually do anything until we flip on the Soliton. There we go. And that way we'll have a good idea of the runtime as well. It'll be pretty close. And we're going to start our monitoring of this cell number 3, which is at 3.0 volts currently. And verifying chemistry, 1, 2, 3. Very good. And our graph, and I'm just going to call it cell 03 charge. Good enough. Save. Okay. Beautiful. So now if we go and look at our graph, it's looking pretty spiffy so far. At 2.9888 volts is what it's registering there. And there we go. Okay, and again, voltage on the entire pack, 177.8 according to the JLD 404, and 178 on the Soliton EV display and data logger. And now we're just going to go ahead and plug in the charger as per standard procedure. Twist lock, plug, twisted and locked. There it is. And so the charger, when it first came on, is showing 34.5, 34.6, 34.7, somewhere in there, of the amperage that it's pulling out of the wall. And then we will check here to see. Already the voltage has climbed to 182.4 and rising. And you can see it's putting in a full, I'm not sure if you can see it actually, putting in 35 to 40 amps. It just kind of fluctuates between there as it's hunting for the voltage. Went up to 41 there for a second. So yeah, there we go, 183.3. And then if we go and we look at our amp hour counter, we can see that it is in fact decreasing, or increasing, I guess as the case would be, since it's negative. It's at 166.5, 166.4, and so forth. So there we go. Our happy little cell here, number 3. Let's take a quick peek at that guy. If I can get it to go. There we go. So this is at 3.07, 3.072, 074, 076. You know, so that's charging. And yeah, so we're going to let this go. As my previous experimentation has shown, it takes about 3.5 hours, or sorry, 4.5 hours rather, to go from a fully empty pack to fully charged. So I will check on this in about 4.5 hours, and it should be fully charged, and we will go from there.